If you spend more than 5 minutes scrolling through any wellness feed or social media platform today, you are almost guaranteed to encounter the exact same villain. It is blamed for absolutely everything. We are told it is the belly fat hormone, the burnout hormone, the chemical that is single-handedly ruining our sleep, destroying our metabolism, and aging our faces. Entire industries, from detox teas to specialized supplements, are built on the premise that we need to eliminate it. But modern physiology is starting to tell a radically different and, frankly, much more fascinating story. Because the truth is, without this highly demonized hormone, you would not wake up this morning, you would not survive a stressful event, you could not regulate your blood sugar, and you would not even be able to maintain stable energy to get through the day. We are, of course, talking about cortisol.
That is exactly right, and the way cortisol has been portrayed is deeply misleading. We have somehow culturally agreed to treat one of the body's most sophisticated, essential survival hormones as if it were a toxin. Cortisol is not inherently dangerous. In fact, it is biologically mandatory. It regulates blood pressure, manages glucose availability, modulates the immune system, and drives our alertness. The absolute core of the issue, which modern research over the last few years has made incredibly clear, is not the presence of cortisol. The real issue is timing. Cortisol functions very much like a master conductor of our circadian rhythm. When it rises at the correct biological time, it supports resilience, focus, and energy. But when that exact same hormone rises at the wrong time, biology begins to suffer immensely.
I love that analogy of the conductor, because if the conductor of an orchestra cues the brass section at the completely wrong moment, the symphony doesn't just sound a little off, it collapses into chaos. And it feels like the wellness industry has completely missed this nuance. They are profiting from making people fear normal, healthy human biology.
Precisely. And scientifically speaking, fearing normal biology is a recipe for anxiety. Healthy humans are actually supposed to experience a massive surge of this hormone every single morning. It is a documented physiological event called the cortisol awakening response. Within the first 30 to 45 minutes of opening your eyes, your system floods with cortisol. It is essentially your body's internal alarm clock, jump-starting your engine, mobilizing glucose so you have the energy to get out of bed, and sharpening your cognitive focus for the day ahead.
Which is deeply ironic. The very hormone that social media influencers are telling us to aggressively lower is the exact same hormone that literally helps us wake up and feel alive. Morning cortisol is not the enemy, it is the fuel. But that brings us to the real problem, doesn't it? If morning cortisol is the biological ideal, what happens when modern life distorts that schedule? What does a healthy cortisol rhythm actually look like? And how are we breaking it?
In a perfectly healthy, biologically aligned human, cortisol peaks right near that sleep-wake transition in the early morning. From there, it follows a beautiful, gradual decline throughout the entire day. By the time the sun goes down and nighttime approaches, your cortisol levels should be relatively low. That low cortisol environment is the biological signal that allows melatonin to rise, sleep pressure to build, and the nervous system to shift into a state of deep recovery. That timing is everything. The body thrives on oscillation highs and lows. But modern life has essentially flattened that curve, or worse, inverted it. We are increasingly creating a phenomenon of midnight cortisol.
Midnight cortisol. That phrase alone sounds exhausting. And it makes perfect sense when you look at how we live. We are exposing ourselves to bright artificial light from screens. We are answering high-stakes work emails at 11 at night. We are doom scrolling through highly stimulating or anxiety-inducing news feeds right before bed. We are doing all of this at the exact biological moment our nervous system is desperately expecting darkness, safety, and recovery.
And the biological cost of that is staggering. Research is increasingly linking this specific circadian cortisol disruption with a cascade of modern health crises. We are talking about profound metabolic dysfunction, mood disorders, cardiovascular strain, and the deep, systemic physiology of burnout. You see this heavily in night shift workers who demonstrate severely disrupted cortisol rhythms. Their bodies are being told to be highly alert when their cellular biology is programmed to repair. But you do not have to be a night shift worker to experience this. Anyone staying up until 2 in the morning, flooded with blue light and psychological stress, is sending an evolutionary signal to their brain that they are in danger. The brain doesn't know you are just looking at a spreadsheet or a social media post. It thinks the sun is up and a predator is chasing you.
Which means modern humans are not just chronically stressed, they are stressed at biologically inappropriate times. We are demanding peak performance from our bodies during the exact hours designated for maintenance and repair. And I imagine this is exactly why so many people struggle with sleep. One of the most common complaints I hear is from people who fall asleep fine, but then wake up between 2 and 4 in the morning, staring at the ceiling, with their heart racing and their mind completely spiraling.
That is a classic hallmark of cortisol dysregulation. When nighttime cortisol remains elevated, it actively suppresses melatonin. It interferes with sleep maintenance. During the biological window that is meant for deep, restorative sleep, the nervous system is essentially receiving chemical stay alert signals. It is the wrong hormone at the wrong time. You are physically lying in bed, but your endocrine system is preparing you to run a marathon or fight a battle.
It is a profound mismatch between our environment and our evolution, and it leads to what might be the defining condition of our modern era, the tired but wired phenomenon. It is this bizarre, agonizing paradox where people feel completely exhausted, dragging themselves through the afternoon, drinking copious amounts of coffee just to function. But the moment their head hits the pillow at night, their brain becomes hyperactive.
That paradox is incredibly common, and it is a direct reflection of a nervous system stuck in hyperarousal. Chronic stress, poor sleep hygiene, and constant digital stimulation create a scenario where the body is physically depleted of resources, hence the exhaustion, but the brain remains physiologically alert because the threat signals never turn off. The body has essentially lost its biological schedule. It no longer knows when it is safe to power down, and we are seeing this reflected vividly in wearable data today. We see it in poor heart rate variability, or HRV, elevated resting heart rates during the night, heavily fragmented sleep cycles, and objectively poor recovery patterns.
I want to pivot slightly because there is another fascinating layer to this, which is the exercise paradox. We know that exercise is one of the best things you can do for your health, but exercise is a stressor. It actively raises cortisol. So how do we reconcile the fact that cortisol is supposedly ruining our health, yet the cortisol spike from exercise is highly beneficial?
This is where nuance is absolutely critical, and where the all cortisol is bad narrative completely falls apart. Acute cortisol elevation, meaning a sharp temporary spike, is incredibly beneficial. During exercise, that cortisol surge supports energy mobilization. It helps your body adapt to the physical demand, and it ultimately improves your performance. But, once again, timing and context dictate the outcome. If you are doing heavy, high-intensity interval training at 9 or 10 o'clock at night, you are flooding your system with cortisol right when it should be dropping. For many individuals, that late-night nervous system activation will severely impair their sleep architecture and their recovery.
So it is not the hormone itself that is the problem. It is the failure to let the hormone subside. Biology depends entirely on rhythm. We are designed for intense action followed by profound rest, not a baseline of permanent low-grade activation.
Exactly. The human body loves oscillation. It hates chronic, unrelenting states. And the consequences of this permanent activation extend far beyond just feeling tired. Modern research is aggressively exploring how chronic cortisol dysregulation physically alters the brain. Long-term exposure to poorly timed stress physiology deeply influences our memory, our emotional regulation, our vulnerability to anxiety, and our overall cognitive resilience. There is significant literature linking chronic elevated cortisol patterns with actual structural changes in the hippocampus, which is the brain's memory center, leading to impaired cognitive performance over time.
That is a terrifying thought, honestly, that our modern lifestyle, our late-night emails, and disrupted sleep schedules could literally be reshaping our brain architecture. It forces us to look at the deep, hidden costs of our 24/7 society. We have built a world that demands constant connectivity, but we are paying for it with our cognitive and metabolic health. It really shifts the entire paradigm. The question modern humans should be asking themselves is not, how do I eliminate my cortisol?
No, absolutely not. The question we must ask is my cortisol arriving at the correct biological time? Because a robust, healthy cortisol rhythm is actually the ultimate marker of resilience. It reflects deep circadian health. When your morning cortisol is strong, you are awake, driven, and capable. When your evening cortisol gracefully declines, you are able to heal, consolidate memories, and repair cellular damage. The body does not need suppression, it needs rhythm.
And this is exactly where the intersection of biology and modern technology becomes so powerful. Because let's be honest, most of us have completely lost touch with our internal rhythms. We do not notice circadian disruption until we are already deep into burnout, insomnia, or chronic illness. But this is where the perspective of platforms like OXYZEN Health Intelligence completely changes the game.
Precisely. We are entering an era where we no longer have to guess. Wearable technology, when utilized correctly, acts as a mirror to our autonomic nervous system. Metrics like heart rate variability, precise sleep timing, resting heart rate curves, and comprehensive recovery scores can indirectly reveal nervous system timing disruptions long before the psychological symptoms of burnout become obvious. It is moving beyond just counting steps or hours slept. The future of health is entirely about circadian intelligence.
It is the shift from just collecting raw data to actually understanding the story that data is telling us. A wearable device on its own doesn't improve your health. It is the interpretation of that data that matters. It is looking at your HRV and realizing that your midnight habits are blunting your morning resilience.
And that realization is empowering. It means the solution is not found in a magic pill that suppresses your hormones. The solution is behavioral alignment. It is about getting morning sunlight in your eyes to anchor that healthy cortisol spike. It is about creating a buffer zone of darkness and calm in the evening to allow melatonin to do its job. The future of medicine and wellness is not about fighting human biology. It is about restoring biological timing. Because when our hormones lose their rhythm, the entire system loses its coherence.
Cortisol is not your enemy. It never was. It is one of the most sophisticated, elegant timing signals in the human body. But it is up to us to stop pulling that signal out of rhythm. We have to decide whether we are going to continue fighting our evolutionary programming or if we are going to finally start living in harmony with our own biology. It is a profound shift in perspective and perhaps the most important health decision we can make in the modern world.